gotta go change the record. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, so, hey everybody. Yep, I'm not gonna sing the Price is Right theme song. That seems to be my thing. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Retro Roadmap Facebook Live with Maud Betty, who looks like a ghost, but you know what? Oh, the filters here on the Facebooks. Hello, Craig. Nice to see you. Matt, I saw you too. I did not have Mr. DJ doing the replay there, so I had to go change the record myself. But here's the deal. There is, so yay, Mary Ann. I bet you're going to have some things to add to my list because we're talking about Kentucky today. Debbie, it's lovely to see you too, and everybody who's chiming in. And I don't know, I love the music. It's very handy because I'm married to a musician. Sorry, I'm just trying to doll the things up there. And there's so many songs that are on my, like, you know, inspirational playlist. I wrote about this week for my other thing that I do called Just Drive Your Life, when I was saying how important it is to make sure that the songs that are playing in the little radio in your head are good ones with good lyrics and, you know, a beat. You don't want to be hearing, I spent way too long in my life listening to the Smiths, and that part of my life actually reflected that sadness. And now I actually have like a pep me up kind of playlist that has all sorts of good things. So yes, so anyhow, that's why at the beginning of the hour you saw me. I was actually lucky you didn't see me dancing around, but I was dancing around because that's what I like to do. So anyhow, welcome. Today we're talking about the state of Tennessee. I got the old school things here. I need a little pointer, a little chart. This is the state, you see. Someday, I actually thought maybe I will try this for next week. I'm going to see if I can somehow get some pictures up, maybe on a laptop. No, like a, what do you call those? A pad, an iPad, something like that. But we're going to talk about Kentucky. So here are two interesting things about Kentucky that I had no idea were so timely. With me deciding, because we have, for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Maud Betty from Retro Roadmap. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 4. And what I have discovered that I love to do is to do a virtual kind of Retro Roadmap book, in the fact that each day I pick a state, and I started in the East because I'm in the East and we're moving to the West. And we started in Maine and already we're in Kentucky. We did Virginia last week, and Ohio was Tuesday. And so then we actually ended up, it was funny, we ended up Tuesday in Ohio in Cincinnati, which is right up here, WKRP. And then right over the water here into Kentucky, there's some neat places here. We're going to go down, we're going to go over, we're going to go over again, we're going to go down. There's a bunch of things here to get you excited to go and visit the mom and pop places when it's all safe for us to go out and road trip. This is just giving you some ideas, and myself some ideas of places that I want to hit that maybe had, you know, you think about things, you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then there's only so much you can hold over here. And now I'm touching my hair again. Yep, it's growing longer. Okay, so this was kind of funny. Let me just, if we're going to talk about my hair for a sec, or your hair. Okay, so we've been in lockdown. My hair is usually so short, and I actually I've been seeing some pictures of me from, you know, Facebook memories, and now I'm starting to look at my hair in the memories going, God, my hair was really short, because I'm getting used to the fact that I have more hair on my head. So much so that today, and I actually have it here, I was able to get all this up into like a tiny little nub. It wasn't a ponytail. I joked with Retro Road Husband that it was actually, instead of a man bun, it was a ma'am bun. So I put it up there. It looked kind of goofy, but I'm trying to train it to go up as opposed to down, because without product in my hair, I look like one of those mop tops from the early 60s. You know, the Beatles. And I don't have the musical talent. So enough about my hair, but I just had to share because it's so informal. I mean, you're basically in my living room set with me, so why not, let's all talk about our hair. B52, very cool. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into Kentucky because there's some neat places. Oh, but here's the thing, and this is Kentucky related, so I am staying focused. 2 things I found out about Kentucky this week. Well, I knew about the Kentucky Derby, right? I kind of forgot when it happened, so it was technically supposed to happen this past Sunday. So the fact that I'm talking about Kentucky around the time of the Kentucky Derby was kind of interesting. I looked online. I believe it has been postponed until the fall. So, hopefully, I've got my fingers crossed here, hopefully we'll be able to go out safely then. But the other crazy thing was, and I think it's over here, Henderson, around these, again, this is just like to give you a visual of what the state looks like. But Mother's Day. So Mother's Day is coming up, and Mother's Day was actually invented by somebody from Kentucky. So how's that for a lattice of coincidence right out there? Let me see if I have it right here. No. Oh, Mary Tolles Sassine created the holiday in Henderson in honor of her own mother. So let's all honor our mothers every day, but especially this week. But the fact that we're talking about for Kentucky, edit that out if I had an editor. But anyhow, so we're going to start up here in the very top right here where you just go over the water and you head into there are 2 towns right over the bridge that you can have your choice. Okay, September 5th. Good to know about the Derby. Thank you, Marianne. We're going to talk about a really cool, interesting place in Covington and a really cute bakery in Newport because they're both up in this little area right here. So let's start with the Anchor Grill because the Anchor Grill was someplace I was so tempted on Saturday on Tuesday to add it to Cincinnati since it was just over, but I knew I wanted to save it to keep it in the right state. So this is a place, the Anchor Grill in Covington, has been open since 1946. It is 24 hours a day when they're open. I did check, they're closed right now to be safe, which is so sensible, but when they are open, they are usually a 24-hour-a-day kind of place. So we kind of love those, and they're right up in this area right there. And a couple of things I love about this place. One is that I was hepped to it by a rock and roll friend of mine, Erin Amar, who does this really fun, she has this thing called Rocker Zine online, and she told me that Deke Dickerson, a great rockabilly guy, had actually posted some pictures of him visiting this place. So that's how it got on my map. I get inspiration, and you should too, from anywhere. Like you hear about something, somebody tells you, if it sparks a little spark in you, then just, put it on a list, write it down. You try to keep it up here, but it doesn't work. So anyhow, the Anchor Grill opened in 1946, 24 hours. Okay, I wrote this down, random meat alert. I don't know if it's going to be a thing, but how we talk about the pork roll, Taylor ham, pork roll in New Jersey, then you get over to Scrapple Land, things like that. So in this neck of the woods, I guess this is technically a thing that is an Ohio thing, but since we're just over the river from Cincinnati, Goetta, I believe is how you pronounce it, Goetta. And I will just read you what I read about it because they have it on the menu here at the Anchor Grill. And to me, anytime you're going to a place, a retro roadmap worthy place that has something that you don't normally see on the menu, like Goetta, you should Goetta it. Anyhow, Goetta is a meat and grain sausage or mush of German inspiration that is popular in the greater Cincinnati area. It is primarily composed of ground meat, pork or pork and beef, pinhead oats, and spices. So there you go. I think you might serve that. I'm not sure how you get it, but I'm sure when you get there. That's another thing. Don't be afraid to let people know when you go to a place that you've never been there, but you're so excited to go there. So let them tell you. Let them help you. Let them feel like they are the smart person in the room and say, what should I order here? What's the thing you're famous for? What's popular? How do you prepare it? That type of thing. There's nothing wrong with admitting you don't know what's going on. And especially when somebody can tell you about the best way to get something on the menu. The other thing that I love about the Anchor Grill is the fact that not only does it have this kind of crazy looking curved counter in there, and they've got a bar area too, but they also have this thing called a bandbox. Now, the only other place I've seen this, and if people are into old kind of Nickelodeons and jukeboxes and things, you may be familiar, but the only other place I've seen one of these contraptions, for lack of a better term, is at Nick's Nest in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which is a little hot dog place out in the western part of the state. And the bandbox is a Chicago's Coin bandbox. And what it is, it's this cute little thing that almost looks like a miniature, I want to say bandbox, but like a miniature stage with a band in front, like a what do you call those? Swing band or something, guys behind the little bandstands, right? You put a nickel in or you put a coin in, and when the music plays through the the music you choose, the guys in the bandbox kind of move back and forth as if they were playing it. I promise I will share a photo of this bandbox from the Anchor Grill with you in the comments. Because it is so adorable, but I just love it when things like that, and who knows, this thing could have been there since the place opened in 1946. So anyhow, I would totally go to the Anchor Grill. If you're in that neck of the woods, which is up here in Kentucky, there's also, let's say you don't have a savory tooth, let's say you don't want Geta, maybe you want something sweet. So there's a place called the Cookie Jar Bakery that's in Newport, Kentucky, literally just a smidge over from that. Opened in 1927. Looks like they had a really cool vintage sign. The sign is still there. It looks like it had some neon in it one time. I'm not sure if it did, but oh my God, the baked goods there looked delicious. 1927, small town, been there forever, cool old sign, sweet treats. What more do you need? I say go there. Going a little bit more south from there. Now, this is a place that I find that's a little bit more what I wrote down as colonially than I normally send people. In this neck of the woods and in New England and different places, you get a lot of those places that are from like the 1700s, and they are very like they're old school inns. So I have kind of a touch and go relationship with them. But this is a really adorable place called the Greyhound Tavern. It was originally called the Dixie Tea Room, built in 1921, so it's not that old, but it's got that kind of old-timey flavor. And they are famous for their onion rings. So it looks to be a slightly more, I don't want to say upscale, but slightly more fancy than I send people. But I mean, literally considering my idea of where to send you is a place where you order from the side, the box that they hang on the wall, and then somebody takes a tray. My idea of fancy probably is not that fancy, but I love onion rings, and I mean, what better an excuse to go find someplace if they're famous for a food. So that's the Greyhound Tavern in Fort Mitchell. So we're starting up here, and we're kind of heading towards, this is the capital of Kentucky is Frankfort, like a Frankfurter, and it's right near Lexington. So we're heading our way down to Lexington, then we go to Louisville, and then we're gonna, check out some places around here. There's the whole Bourbon Trail, if you're of that type. So all sorts of fun things to talk about in Kentucky, even though there was no Derby yet, and all those ladies with their fancy hats. So the next place is in Bedford. So this place looks adorable. It's called Little Town and Country. And one of the reasons I'm recommending it is because it's been around since 1959, actually since 1956, but it's been family owned and operated since 1959. And the sign is so cute. It has this picture of like two little kids, and one's like the country kid and one's the little town kid. So it's the Little Town and Country, family owned and operated, not breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I notice they call it breakfast, lunch, and supper. So I love that. All food cooked to order at the Little Town and Country restaurant. So, and again, you can eat in or carry it out. That's fine. And then here's a really interesting thing. So I keep on showing you the map, but it's just like, it's on here, I can't point directly towards it because I got a really bad printout, and you'll just have to trust me on this, people. LaGrange Kentucky. I had no idea, except I was looking up a restaurant, there's actually a drive-in movie theater in LaGrange. LaGrange is the only town in America, one of these superlatives, the only town in America that has an active train running down the middle of its main street. Isn't that crazy? Like, I just love I love that. I love the fact that, like, you could be eating at a restaurant or walking down the street, and the next thing you know, like, a literal train is going down the middle of the road. I think that is totally cool. So I would go to LaGrange. There's a couple of cute restaurants in town there. I would wait to see the train. And then if you happen to be there in the evening hours, one of the seven drive-in movie theaters in Kentucky is in LaGrange. It is called Sourbeck's Family Drive-In. And yeah, they've only got 7 drive-in movie theaters kind of sprinkled about in Kentucky. You know what, Janet? I'm going to go to the comments for just a hot minute. My parents also used to say supper. And Linda, I am so glad that you got your postcard, because I am a woman of my word. I don't want to disappoint anybody, including myself. And so when I say I'll do something, I will do it. So I'm so glad you got your postcard, and spread the love, do something nice for somebody else like I did for you. Let it keep going. So now, this is a really fun thing. So now we are in Louisville, right? And I admit that I had kind of forgotten, when I was looking at my map of little pins, that Retro Road husband and I had actually been to Louisville. And the reason I had forgotten, not because it wasn't a great place, but literally it was on the tail end of a very long road trip, about 10 years ago or so. God, was it that long ago? No, maybe. Almost 10 years. We drove all the way from Philadelphia down to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest Music. And then we went down, because I was doing the itinerary. So we drove down in one direction, and then we came up in a totally different one, so we could hit different places on the way. Because that's the thing. And one of the places that we went through was Louisville, Kentucky. And the main reason we went through Louisville was because we wanted to stop at the Brown Hotel. Now, I know that doesn't sound fancy. Oh, look, she's sending me to a Brown Hotel. And if anybody knows, if anybody saw on Instagram today, the fact that I put a few decorations out in my yard, and I'm not necessarily a fan of the neutral beige tones, but the Brown Hotel is not only one of the great historic hotels that I just think are so cool. Like, I would love to just stay in every single one of them. Like, you know how you get a list of things? Like, I'm always one for creating a list, like, who has the best onion rings? Let's try everybody. Let's go to all X of Y, anything to create a faux reason to get on there. And Mary Ann. So this is cool, everybody. Look, so Mary Ann is a retro road mapper, and she says she sells her photography at the Brown gift shop. Well, I will just have to go back there and see your stuff in the gift shop. I will stay in the hotel, even though it's a little bit out of my price range at the moment, but not necessarily in the future. Who knows? But they are famous for their, I'm getting so excited thinking about it, their sandwich called the Hot Brown. Now, again, that doesn't sound too appetizing, people. Lynn, nice to see you. Glenn Wells, I love how people are chiming in. I realize this is a long show I do, so I love it when people kind of pop in and pop out. That's fine. The fact that you're here is just awesome, because that makes me be here. So we're talking about the Brown Hotel and the Hot Brown sandwich, because it doesn't sound good, but oh my gosh, is it delicious. So the Hot Brown is a world famous dish. Invented in 1926, and at least if I remember the story correctly, it was pretty much like people were hanging out late night at the hotel, and then it was like, we're hungry, what do you got? And they kind of put a bunch of things together, and they made this thing that ended up being really tasty. And I got the ingredients directly from the Brown Hotel restaurant website, and it says roast turkey breast, toast points, Mornay sauce, Pecorino Romano cheese, baked golden brown, finished with bacon and tomatoes or tomatoes. Please allow 20 minutes to prepare. So I will say this, so delicious and rich in both senses of the word, because it is, as we would say, like a belly bomb, but it is the most delicious belly bomb that you'd ever eat. It's also a bit pricey for a sandwich. I think on their website, just to clue you in, just so you're prepared, about $22 to $25 for this, but it literally is this thing, and it's covered with sauce and cheese that you're not going to leave there hungry. If you are a little bit hungry though, or maybe you're splitting the sandwich in a salad, which is I think what we did, and then we had room for dessert, that's how I roll. They also have Derby pie, which obviously is a Kentucky thing. And it says it's the original from 1968, Kern's Kitchen since 1968. It's a walnut and chocolate chip pie. Now, I love my sweets, so to me, I want to have the sweet and the savory. And then go back to the savory and have a sweet. And then that was too sweet. Give me, a potato chip, and then, I need some chocolate. And that's how I eat when I'm not eating boring food at home. So anyhow, that is the Brown Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. Not only a famous, awesome, glorious, fancy hotel that you should stay in to live the life, but also known for their hot brown sandwich. Right down the street. It's actually very conveniently located because not only is it right across the street from the Brown Theater, which was opened in 1925, and you can still see live shows there, but also the Palace Theater. The Palace Theater is just about a block away, and now that place is a palace. It's very ornate inside. It is from where did I write it down? 1928, kind of that classic. 1928 is when movies started to go from silent films to talkies, if I'm not mistaken. Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer was the very first talkie movie, just as a random, in case anybody asks for it on Jeopardy. But that is the Louisville Palace Theater. And then also I will point out 2 more things in Louisville. So to me, doesn't this sound like a fun, long weekend? To me, this sounds like what I would do is totally go and hit these spots. There's another historic hotel in Louisville as well. It's called the Sealback Hilton. And the thing that's neat about that is, and here's what I do is let's say you are being routed through a town and it just does not make sense on any really, economically or but your itinerary to not stay anywhere, that you're unable to stay in one of these places. There's nothing wrong in my mind taking some time and literally just going and checking out the public areas. Looking at the photographs of the Sealback in Louisville, they've got some glorious staircases and tile work, all sorts of things. If they've got a bar, maybe you stay and you have like a cocktail or a quick bite, even if you're not able to stay over, that you can still kind of support and appreciate these places. Also, take a picture, Instagram it, make other people aware that this is something that is cool that they should check out too. The last place I want to show you in Louisville before moving on, because we've got a lot of living to do, as I was singing earlier, and we've got a lot of Lexington to live in, is Muth's Candies. So we have a friend whose last name is Muth, M-U-T-H, and I'm going to see if he's related to this family, because this place has been open in 1921, and here's another thing. Ooh, looks like we've got a low connection. Sorry there, Retro Road Mappers. Okay, so Muth's Candies in Louisville has these interesting foods that you find when you're discovering new old places. The Modjeska. Now I will spell it for you. Oh, Marianne, thank you. Yes. Ooh, Al Capone stayed there. So in Muth's Caramels, Modjeskas, M-O-D-J-E-S-K-A, is a combination of marshmallow and buttercream and caramel. It was created in Louisville and named for a very famous Polish actress who appeared in Louisville several times in the 1880s, Helena Modjeska. Now, can you imagine? Maybe somebody would invent like a candy named after you or me. Can you imagine that? It's kind of like Peach Melba was named after an opera singer named Melba something. Not Melba Houston, but anyhow, wouldn't it be neat to have like a tasty food named after you? And that sounds absolutely delicious. So I would totally go to Muth's. They also have chocolate-covered bourbon balls. Bourbon is a huge thing. Like if you are a drinker of the brown liquids, bourbon. There's a whole Bourbon Trail I'll talk to you about. But Kentucky bourbon, this is where it's from, Kentucky. So anyhow, they also have bourbon balls at Muth's Candies. All right, so that is Louisville. Louisville Sluggers. Oh yeah, there's the Louisville Slugger Museum. I totally forgot. You can go and what is that, baseball? The baseball bats. You can see where they make the baseball bats. Janet, I'm sorry you can't see anyone's posts. I had a little thing where it said that the that the connection went out. Maybe it'll rectify itself, but I'm going to keep on plugging along. So I think they will appear. They might reappear. The internet, we are beholden to it. So now we're moving on to Lexington. So we went down to Louisville. Pardon me, I said we were going here. Louisville's here, and now we're heading into Lexington, kind of right south of Frankfurt. And here's one of the number one places that I wanted to talk to you about in Lexington, and then I was delighted to find more. So there is this adorable place called the Parquette, Parkeette, the Parquette Drive-In. Opened in 1951 and still offers car hop service. They've got this wonderful animated neon sign that looks so glorious. This is one of, I will be honest, one of the things that when I'm doing my research and I decide on places to share with people, if it's got a cool old neon sign, I pretty much, that catches my eye and gets me to go in and either virtually, you know, if I'm there in real life, I would stop in. And if I'm just here yakking about places on the internet, that, you know, would get me to yak about it. So that's why I'm telling you about the Parquette. Opened in 1951, and their animated neon sign is about 35 feet tall. Famous for their car hop service, and frankly, you always need a place to eat. So I would say the Parquette. I think it would make an awesome picture too. Like if you're one of those road trippers who loves to go and snap. I mean, who doesn't love to snap photos of where you've been on your trips? But then there were two other cool places that I had discovered when I was talking about Lexington. One is the Kentucky Theater, opened in 1922, glorious old movie palace in downtown Lexington. And then kind of on the opposite spectrum of, let's say, the Brown Hotel in Louisville, but just as dear to my retro loving heart or vintage loving heart, there is a place in Lexington called the Wheeler Pharmacy. So Wheeler Pharmacy is a pharmacy. You can go get your, you know, drugs and pharmaceuticals there and whatnot, but they also have a lunch counter. And they've got a lunch counter and booths with aqua vinyl booths. Again, it cracks me up when I start to learn about myself or realize how color, as you can see from my glasses and my house, color gets me so excited. So had the interior of the Wheeler been beige or brown, it still would have been cool. I probably would have recommended it, but the fact that their booths and their stools are a great aqua color and their countertop is white, I just love the fact that it remained, they didn't feel the need to earth tone themselves down to try to just, you know, fit in. They used color to stand out, you know, back in the day when people did that. And so you can go there for breakfast or lunch. I'm sure they have regulars there. I would warm my heart to know that there are like old folks who go there and pick up whatever they need to keep them healthy, but then they also sit down, have a cup of coffee. There's a little bit of community connection there. So that is the Wheeler Pharmacy, and it's called Wheeler's Fountain. Not Wheel of Fortune, but Wheeler's Fountain. Also, there's a really cool place on the kind of, if you like to collect, as I said, I often talk about places where you can eat. A lot of eating that you have to kind of, you know, parse out if you want to, you know, still fit into your clothes at the end of your trip. But many places that are kind of old and vintage looking are still, are the eating places. However, here's a cool place called Pop's Resale. Now, not old school and vintage at all, except for what they carry, which is a great selection of records and vintage clothing, things like that. So if you like to go and when you're on your trips, you know, go search for those things that you're looking for, you know, like Astrid Gilberto records that you don't have, or maybe you're looking for that, you know, that one elusive something or other that, but I don't even know what they call that thing, you know, your holy grail of, oh my gosh, I found, you know, that Beatles Let It Be in mono or something like that. But Pop's Resale in Lexington, Kentucky looks like a fun place to go check out. South of Lexington, and pardon me, I'm just going to go like this because I don't have my retro road husband what do you call it? Okay, good. We're doing good on time. I also don't have my little clock with me, so I had to look at the kitchen clock. I just wanted to make sure we're doing good on time, and we are. So thanks everybody for tuning in, because I've got more places to tell you about in Kentucky. So west of Lexington, south of Lexington. So there are a few places scattered around here. And usually what I like to do, and if I was doing a book, I would definitely include these and get more in depth of them. But there are little things to pop around that you may build a trip around. You know, there are a few kind of heavy hitters when you know you're going to have a few things in a certain area. And then there are others that you might want to try to pop around to. So down here, more in the south, here, right as you get to the Tennessee line and a little bit above that. Probably the main one I'd want to tell you about, and I'm going to mention two more, is the Harlan Sanders Cafe and Museum. Now, I don't know if anybody recognizes the name Harlan Sanders, but that would be Colonel Sanders, who invented Kentucky Fried Chicken. So it's kind of crazy. It is a national chain. I think somebody told me, maybe it's an urban myth, I'm not sure, that they don't call it Kentucky Fried, they just, KFC is the thing now. But anyhow, Kentucky Fried Chicken originally came from Kentucky. Colonel Harlan Sanders invented it. And down here in Corbin, Kentucky, you can go to KFC, but it's also the Harlan Sanders Cafe and Museum. So, as I mentioned, I rarely send you to chain restaurants, but when they've got something a little extra like that, can't hurt to try it out. Now, I will say this, I would assume, I could be wrong, but I would assume that the chicken and all the stuff at that particular one better be darn tasty if you're at the museum, right? So it better be good and tasty. But the other thing is too, is also do some, interesting. Thank you, Marianne. I love you chiming in. Thank you so much. I would also do a little bit of retro roadmap research if I was going to be in the area, and I might check out the museum and maybe get like a drumstick or something and a biscuit. I guess they have biscuits. But I also would see if there's any other mom and pop places around there that I could also spend some of my money and my calories, So, kind of do the both and, as like we like to say. I just saw Jeff. I will point out, I will turn to the comment section for a moment. Jeff, you are welcome for your, glad you get the postcard. Glad you guys doing okay. And the other Jeff, tuning in from the UK. Wonderful. Actually, you know what's funny? Randomly, I remember eating Kentucky Fried Chicken once when I was in England, upwards of, many years ago, 20 years ago, and thinking how random it was that this national chain was now international. Now you see places like that across the world, and it's kind of a bummer that, it's kind of blandifies everything. But however, when you're in Kentucky, when in Rome, when in Kentucky, have yourself some Kentucky Fried Chicken. So couple of other cute places that I found that were kind of in this neck of the woods was the Seven Gables Motel. So I don't often share motels and hotels unless I feel secure about it. So I will tell you, this looked good to me from the get-go. And it looks like it's got some good reviews and things, but everybody knows what kind of places they are very comfortable sleeping in. And everybody's got their own, differing opinions. So the one thing that, the four categories of retro road mapping I always talk about are places to eat, things to do, places to shop, 5 and 10s and whatnot. But the last category is important, but it's always the least populated, and that is places to stay. And that's because I so firmly believe that I want you all to trust me. And the last thing I want you to do is have a lousy experience. And especially if you think about it, when you're staying in a hotel or a motel, you're basically spending 8 or 10 hours like unconscious, So you want to feel comfortable and secure. So that's why I'm telling you that, to me, the Seven Gables Motel in Burnside, Kentucky looks intriguing to me. It looks like a cute little mom and pop motel. Looks like they've got some good reviews. So, I would say looks like something to research. And if it looks like your kind of place to stay there. Another really cute little place that in this neck of the woods down here before we start to hit the Bourbon Trail is the Dairy Bar in Whitley City. Whitley, not Whiteley, Whitley City. Total adorable place to pull in, dairy bar. get your burgers and fries. Saw a lot of crinkle cut fries in some of these pictures, and I'm a crinkle cut fry fan. So yeah, they had me. You had me at crinkle cut. So now we are going west of Lexington. So we kind of went down here, but we're heading west, and this is where the Bourbon Trail is. So this might be a week where you spend your liver and your drinking and whatnot, and if you want to check out the many bourbon distilleries there. Now, I don't say obviously, probably the most famous, I think it's the oldest brand in Kentucky, Jim Beam. You can go to the Jim Beam distillery. They are a total thing. But there's also all sorts of other bourbons that if you're into bourbon, there's Woodford, Wild Turkey, Four Rosers, Maker's Mark, Heaven Hill, and probably a bunch that I'm missing. But each one of these distilleries has things where you can go and learn about them and, have a sip. Now, I haven't done it. Yay. I'm so excited you mentioned that, Marianne, because we're getting there. So I need to stop yakking and make sure I get myself down to Cave City. But I just wanted to mention that that there are all these, kind of really interesting, again, it's kind of like an indigenous food, an indigenous drink that comes from someplace. Oh, that's good to know, Brian, about them being closed on Sunday. Yeah, kind of like the blue laws we used to have up in Massachusetts where things were closed on Sunday. That's a really good thing to pay attention to. Also, as a random aside too, you just reminded me of it. So when we were coming up through Kentucky all those years ago, we did stay at the Wigwam Motel in Village in Cave City that Marianne just mentioned in the comments. So we stayed there, and our goal for the day was to get to Cincinnati because we went to the American Sign Museum. Now, somewhere in this area, okay, I'm just giving you a heads up, there's a time change, like one of the time zones changes. So we thought we were making good time, and then suddenly we were not making good time. And the reason I mention that is like, Brian, so other things to check out is, our place is open on Sundays. Maybe a lot of places tend to be like, if they're open on Sundays, sometimes they're closed on Mondays. So always do that research so you're not disappointed. I will never forget, I can't remember I think it was in Mississippi. There's a place called like Mammy's Cupboard, and you go there for pies, and it's shaped like a woman with a skirt. You go in the skirt and you eat the food. And we literally missed it by like 15 minutes. They closed at 2:00 in the afternoon. Anyhow, I digress. So Bourbon Trail, you can do the Bourbon Trail. Here's a place that I wanted to make sure you knew about because we are getting down towards Cave City. But this is a place that a neighbor of ours recommended that she wrote to me raving about, the Lincoln Jamboree in Hodgenville, Kentucky. And I did check. They are now currently closed because we're all, being smart and keeping away from each other, because we're playing the long game. I'm not even a sports person, but we are banking on our future. And here's what my neighbor wrote to me about the Lincoln Jamboree. She said, add it to your map. We went last night and it's a gem. It's the longest running country music show and was started by Joel Ray Sprouse, who still MCs it. And at the time she wrote this to me a couple of years ago, he was 91 years old. It looks like he's still around. She says, it's totally adorable, a 3-hour show for about $10. And there are a couple of teenage performers. They all vocalists. Some vocalists have been singing there for 59 years every Saturday night. And doesn't that just sound like that kind of wonderful, not to quote, I am going to quote Charles Phoenix, like homespun and family run type of place that you'd want to go to. That's the Lincoln Jamboree in Hodgenville. As we move along, so please check that out. I just had to mention this. There is also, remember we talked about when I was in Virginia, when we were talking about Virginia, was it Virginia? We're talking about Foamhenge, right? Not Stonehenge in England, but we've got Foamhenge in Virginia. And then also there is Kentucky Stonehenge in Munfordville, Kentucky, where somebody actually got some rocks and I don't know what's the thing to recreate Stonehenge, little people of Stonehenge, so that would be a funny thing. It is on private land, but you are able to go take a look at it, but be respectful because it's somebody's yard. And that is on your way to not only Cave City, but also Mammoth Cave. So again, like we talked about when I was talking about places to go to in Virginia. Virginia has Luray caves and caverns you can go check out. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is the longest cave system in the world. So if you're a spelunker, $5 word, $10 word. Actually, Retro Road Husband's uncle is kind of a professional spelunker. If you're into that, longest cave system in the world and one of the United States' second oldest tourist attractions. The only one older than this is Niagara Falls. So anyhow, go check out the caves. You can go spelunking in them. Now I'm going to use that word way too often. And Cave City, Mammoth Cave, that whole area is a bit of that kind of ticky-tacky, what would my mother call it? Like honky-tonk, for lack of a better term, but kind of a cute little vintage yet slightly cheesy, tacky tourist area. You know, hence the fact that there is the Wigwam Village. So Wigwam Village is in Cave City, and when I talk about Route 66 in a future episode, or when I even talk about California or Arizona. So Wigwam Village started out to be a chain. I believe, this is off the top of my head, I should have put it down. I believe there were initially 11 of them. This one is called number 2. And I think 5 and 6 are the ones that are out in Holbrook, Arizona, and San Bernardino, California. We've stayed in both of them. We have to go to the one we have to stay at the one in Arizona, which we totally will. Again, collect them all. And Wigwam Village is those little kind of stucco teepees that you can stay in. We stayed at the one in Cave City and commiserated with the owner about how hard it is to keep a stucco house in the non-stucco world. Like our little hacienda, we call it the hacienda because it's got a stucco outside and a flat roof, which is not great for when you have snow. Speaking of a snowball room, you could eat in the cave. Oh, that sounds cool. But in any case, kind of a cool place. Again, do your own due diligence. Don't just, take responsibility for your own happiness. And if you look at the Cave City, TPs and you realize it's not your deal, just don't stay there. Don't stay there and have a crappy time. Just don't stay there. They had some of the neat original old stick furniture, which I thought was awesome, and we thought it was a sweet place. So I totally recommend that. And again, as I mentioned, in the area, there's some ticky-tacky places like Tom's TP gift shop. There is a dinosaur world that doesn't look as old-time funky as the one in Dinosaur Land, again in Virginia, but who doesn't want to pose in front of it's chasing me, And then there's a place called the Watermill Restaurant that looks like it's been there for a while. So that's all in the Cave City area, Mammoth Cave, things like that. Now, again, just checking myself. Usually I do this and I try to be discreet. But I forgot my phone and I don't wear a watch anymore. But a few other places that I want to make sure you know about in Kentucky before I sign off today. So here was kind of a neat thing. There's a place called Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now, I say that like it's unusual, but when I was growing up in my town in Massachusetts, I feel like we had 2 bowling alleys. One was the Bowl Away, which is still there, and I learned it was it's one of the oldest bowling alleys left in Massachusetts. But there was one called the Bowling Green, and it was right next to McDonald's. I remember going to the Bowling Green. And so when I learned about a place called Bowling Green, Kentucky, thank you, Glenn Wells. You rock. I was like, oh, there's a place called Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I didn't even actually notice if they had any bowling alleys in Bowling Green, my bad. But they do have. What they do have in Bowling Green is 2 things that will appeal to the auto enthusiast in us all. One is an adorable little renovated Standard Oil gas station from 1921 is right in downtown Bowling Green. It's almost like the type of place that I found a number of when I was on my Route 66 journey. This cute little square building with a clay tile roof. They've renovated it. I'm not sure, so don't take my word on it. I think you may be able to go in there and use it as a rest area. but make sure it's legit. Don't just, pull up and assume you can do that. But it's an adorable little place to pull up your car and learn about the history of some of these old gas stations. But also, here's the thing. The National Corvette Museum. Right. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Where's my wacky sidekick, that rubber band duck pin bowling? I put it away. But anyhow, the National Corvette Museum is in Bowling Green. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not much for cars under the hood. I trust in them. Like, I trust in the universe that things are going the way they're supposed to. I trust my car under the hood where it goes. But boy, do I like cars that look cool. And Corvettes are pretty damn attractive cars, I will say. So that, to me, I love going to auto museums. And I'll just give a quick shout out in a second to a friend of mine regarding that. But because there's also that notion of the roadside attractions and the road trip and the journey. Now, that's more of what I'm about. But I would totally go to the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green. As I mentioned, the Duncan Hines Highway. See? And I just thought he made cake mixes. I kid. I know he did a few more things than that, but some of us only know about these old brands because of things like, Duncan Hines cakes. So before I get too far off of my, out on the limb and then fall off the branch, I just want to give a quick plug to, and I have the book around here somewhere, but there is a wonderful book that is all about nothing but auto museums. So if you're interested in that, of course, now that I'm trying to think of where it is in my books, I can't find it, then my mind goes blank, and his name is Michael, and I'm forgetting his last name, but that is another thing that I will put I will put a link to this book. It's called like The Roadster's Guide to Auto Museums. If you're into auto museums, I can tell you about that. So totally blank. Marissa. Oh, forget it. This is what happens when you're live, people. Like if I was doing something, I could say, cut. All right, look up his name. But I just got to keep on keeping on. Just like Gladys Knight and the Pips. So where are we? So we're almost done with some of the places. And again, it's not every cool vintage place, but this is just a taste of some of the neat things that I have found in Kentucky to inspire you to head out there. So we did that. The Capitol Arts Center is also in Bowling Green. We talked about Mother's Day. Okay, also almost to Missouri. So this was crazy. When I was trying to figure this out, there are so many states that Kentucky kind of is adjacent to. This was really interesting. So we're heading out in kind of this direction over here. There's actually this one little point right here. I forget what it's called, but literally it's like a little nub. It's like I don't think they call it the nub, but you have to go into Tennessee to get back into Kentucky for this little smidge right here, because it they got it in a poker game or something. So anyhow, in this neck of the woods, I just wanted to tell you about a few interesting places. One is called Kirchhoff's Bakery Deli, and that's in Paducah, Kentucky. Now, this was recommended to me by a retro road mapper, and she loved the Art Deco facade in front of this. And when I took a look on the internet, hell yeah. And so here's the other thing. You want to keep money going into places that have cool signs so that they keep the cool signs up. One of the places I was so disappointed to find, my assistant, this is okay. Quick aside, Thursday's the one day, where's my hand? The one day of the week where we actually go out. He actually goes out grocery shopping. We only go once a week. Today's the day, and every time he tries to go after this, it's really busy, so he's out grocery shopping. He's out hunting and gathering, and I'm here in the nest. In any case, what I was talking about was the importance of just cool signage, because there was a bowling alley. I'm forgetting where it was in Kentucky, but I saw a picture of it on Roadside Architecture with Deborah Jane Seltzer, and it looked really interesting. It was the Capri. No, it wasn't a bowling alley. It was a theater called the Capri, and it had this really cool mid-century thing where it went up, and there were these kind of diamond shapes, and it said Capri, and each one had a sign. Now I'm a mime. Now I'm voguing. And then what did they do? They took that sign down and they replaced it with vinyl letters. Meh. Don't we deserve to live in a world that has cool signs? I ask you. So anyhow, that's me on my Brillo box talking about the fact that the Kirchhoff's Bakery and Deli in Paducah, Kentucky has a really cool stainless steel Art Deco sign, and you should buy your sweets there so they keep the sign up. And tell them how much you like the sign too. That's so important. Remind people that the reason that you came in is because they have that cool sign. Have them make that connection between, this cool, interesting, cool old place we have is making us money. Maybe we should keep that cool old sign because it's bringing people in here. Just saying. Couple of other places. Oh, barbecue. So there are a whole bunch of barbecue places in Kentucky. And the one that I want to give a shout out to, I haven't been there, is Knoth's Barbecue in Grand Rivers, because it's been around since 1965. So if I were going to be going to a barbecue place, I'd want to check out one that's vintage. Also a really random thing, the Capri. Right, thank you, Marianne. You're so great. I appreciate you being my co-pilot here for Kentucky, since you're from there. The other thing I noticed about barbecue in Kentucky is that mutton. I think it's mutton. Yeah, that's lamb. I'm not actually, I'm going to rescind that. Like, I'm going to zip it because I'm not sure if I'm thinking of that or I'm thinking of, what's that other meat? Not pork. I know that's the other white meat. Regardless, go get some barbecue at Knott's Barbecue in Grand Rivers. So here's where we go, and just because it seemed like a nice way to close out, we were up in this neck of the woods, but we're gonna take a really quick all the way over to this section right here. And you know why? Because I just think this is so fun. There is the Cumberland Gap. There is a Cumberland Gap National Park, and there's a certain place where you can go and you can stand in where's my hand here? You can stand in 3 states at once in Cumberland Gap. And you can have, I don't know, it must be like when you're playing, what do you call that? I'm sorry, blanking on things. Milton Bradley has a hot one. Twister. Okay, Twister. Spin the spinner and call the shot. Get tied up in a knot. So that's probably how you're able to get into 3 states at once. Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee. So I'm thinking foot, hand, foot, something like that. But I just think that those kinds of things are just such a fun thing to say that you did when you were on a road trip. So that brings me to the last of the places that I have to recommend in Kentucky. So I know Marianne Buckner has been wonderful in chiming in the comments here and telling her faves. If anybody else, and I know Brian up thread, you had a few too. If anybody has any other favorites that they have for Kentucky, please put them in the comments. That way I know about them. That means other people watching now, and also when they watch later, are going to know about them as well. And then we all kind of contribute to, reminding ourselves of the cool vintage places. As I mentioned, in Cumberland Gap, you can stand in Kentucky. Where am I? Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee. So it only makes sense that next week, next Tuesday, I will start we will cover Tennessee on Tuesday, and then we'll just go from there. If anybody has any questions, I think we've got a hot minute or two, but if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to pop them in there. And while I say that, I just want to, again, thank everybody for showing up. I said in my episode on Tuesday that I had no idea. I couldn't even remember how many of these Facebook Lives I have done. And I did a count, and today is my 16th. So that means I've done this for 8 weeks, and it's true because it started when we self-quarantined, and I realized that we weren't the only ones stuck in our homes, but what could I do to help? I could get on the interwebs and say, hey, how's everybody doing? Are you doing okay? This has been a lot of fun for me. So Janet Stoner Meehan, Janet Meehan. I'll get it right one of these days, huh? So the Brown Hotel is in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's where that sandwich is. And other places, I think, do make the hot brown. So if you ever see a hot brown on a menu, you might want to check it out. Glenn Wells, happy 7th anniversary Shoe Fest to you too. I saw the pictures pop up on the interwebs. And for folks who don't know, about 7 years ago, which is crazy how time flies, a bunch of us got together and I did a retro roadmap day where we all went to the shoe house in York, PA, and then we went and had lunch at a diner. We had breakfast at a diner. Oh, it was such a fun day. And it was so good to connect with people in real life, and how lucky we are right now that we have the internet during this time where we're all self-isolating, that we can still connect up here on the internet. So that said, I just again want to say sincerely, thank you so much for showing up. Keep on putting your comments in there. And next week we'll do Tennessee. And I promise I'm going to do, here's the thing. I promise I'm going to be here every Tuesday and Thursday. And, maybe I'll be here long enough that we do all 50 states. You know what? That's cool with me, because this is writing a mini book. This is me getting my book content done so quickly. I just have to fill in all the writing words, But here's a thing I wanted to mention to you before I forget. Some of you may have already seen the invitation or the event on the Retro Roadmap page, and that's because another one of my mantras is start before you're ready. And so I said I need to put this event out before I chicken out. And so what I'm doing, just so you have a heads up, and I'll remind people of it as it's coming up. Not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, May 18th. I'm doing a special episode of Retro Roadmap Facebook Live. It's going to be Monday, May 18th in the evening. In the evening for East Coast people. It's going to be 8 o'clock in the evening. And the reason I'm doing it is because May 18th is mine and Retro Road Husband, Invisible Retro Road Husband. That's our anniversary. And we were supposed to be in Los Angeles, California, celebrating our anniversary. But obviously, we're not going to be there. And you know what? Many people are doing are having it much worse than us. So I thought it would be fun when I started thinking about all of the cool vintage places that we were planning on going during our trip to LA. It occurred to me, why don't we make like an episode? We're going to make a Los Angeles centric episode. It will be me and Retro Road Husband will be here. We will both be here. And I thought it might just be a fun way to present some of these cool places in Los Angeles that not only I want to share with you because they're cool vintage places, but the neat thing is for us, because it's our wedding anniversary, like we have some of these places entwined in our personal history. So we can tell some stories, about how like we met at an old movie house that had a sign, how we were hoping to go to this really fancy old-timey restaurant, for our dinner because we had spent some time there before. But I just thought it would be a fun way for us to say, hey, we can't be there, but you know what, let's share our stories, and maybe this will inspire other people to check out these places in Los Angeles. So as I said, I'm usually going state by state, but this is going like we're flying over to the West Coast because it's our anniversary, inviting you all with us that evening. So there is a Facebook invite for that. So please tune in. I'll remind people of it beforehand. And who knows, like, as I said, it's going to be live, and it's going to be, Retro Road Husband and me, and we'll be telling stories. So who knows what will come up, but I just thought it would be kind of fun. And yeah, on that note, thank you very much for showing up this week. As I like to tell you or ask you or remind you or implore you, whatever verb, please be the best you can be during this time. And, you know what? I often say this, but I really mean it. Just drive your life. You've got your hands on the steering wheel, and you can decide where you're going. And even if you're stuck in your parking lot, mentally you can decide what you're going to feel like. So be the best you can be, and just drive your life. And I'll see you next Tuesday when we're talking about Tennessee. All right? Bye.